All right, so week one. Let's look at these lines. Let's go through every game, make a pick, and then we'll go to our final 5 games, our official 5 games. More than likely, I will have a ticket on all 5 games that I tell y'all. I will always, well, I won't always, but I'll try and update on Twitter of which tickets I actually have. I currently have a ticket for the total of Houston, Kansas City, which we'll talk about. So let's go to week 1 of the NFL. Let's start off Thursday night. Houston, Kansas City. Kansas City opened at -10. It's moved to -9. Seemingly everywhere. Some places 9.5. I've seen it at 9 wherever I've gone. Over under opened at 56.5. Now sits at 54.5 across the board. I have a ticket on the over under at 54.5. I've already made a bet. I love the under. I have a ticket on the under. I love the under. This is the highest scoring total opening game in NFL history. Now think about that. This is the worst possible time for high scoring games. These teams have not played together. These teams have not had a preseason. These teams have not had a training camp. These teams are coming out fresh. On top of, this is a COVID year. So everything is different. Travel is different. Hotels are different. Buses are different. Locker rooms are different. Everything is different. This could not be more of an unknown. So you expect me to think that these teams are going to go out there and just light it up and just get into a shootout? On top of Kansas City. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, their starting running back, hasn't played a snap in the NFL. We have no clue what he's going to do. On the other side, Houston. Deshaun Watson does not have his number 1 wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. Why? Because he's in Arizona. He gone. So how is Houston going to handle not having DeAndre Hopkins? What does he take away? The last time these teams played, I believe the total was 51. That was a shootout. This is very different. I love the under. I'm already on it. I could see myself being on it even more. Now, as far as the line, I personally would pass this game. We're going to do like forced picks for all the games, and then I'll give you 5. But I would pass on this. I think Kansas City is a way better team, but it's just really hard for me to it's hard for me to believe that teams are just going to be clicking, immediately. Now, I think that Deshaun Watson has only lost by more than a touchdown like 3 or 4 times in his career. So I would take, if I had to, I would take Houston +9. But I don't love it. Houston +10 sounds a whole lot better. But back in Deshaun Watson to never give up, Deshaun Watson to just keep throwing, Deshaun Watson to just keep doing that. You also might think that if Kansas City gets up big at the end, they may take out some of their players and just kind of rest them up. I would think early on it's going to be a lot of rotations. Early on, people are going to be coming in and out, just kind of get their air. So it's harder for blowouts early. So I'd say Houston +9, forced pick in this game. But again, over-under, love the under. Next game, Miami, New England. Is another situation. Another situation where New England, think about what they're going through. Cam Newton, how he's going to play. He's a new starter. First time not having Tom Brady. But how much work has he got with the actual team? This is an over-under 43.5. Sitting, looks like about 43 everywhere. And then we have New England open at -5.5, but now sits at -6.5 everywhere except for Stations, which is -7. So I would look at this and I would say I like Miami. I like Miami +6.5. This could be one of my 5. We'll have to see how it goes. But I like thinking about, Miami with Fitzpatrick. They have a lot less to figure out. Brian Flores, I think, is a really good coach. Belichick does tend to do pretty well against his proteges, but it's just so much to ask for New England to have that much of a change going from Tom Brady to Cam Newton. On top of, we don't know anything about Cam Newton. I assume he's healthy. I assume he feels good, looks good, is going to play good, but I don't know. I have no clue. So with all the unknowns, Miami usually plays pretty tough against New England. You would got to think Flores has something against, has some kind of something against Belichick. So I'm going to say +6.5. Boom, Miami. Cleveland, Baltimore. At Baltimore. Over under 48.5. -8. Seemingly across the board for Baltimore. A lot of points. This probably would be a pass for me as well. Ton of points. I mean, Cleveland, you got to think like Cleveland. The thing with Cleveland, though, is that, Kevin Stefanski's a new coach there. Absolutely no time at all. A lot of talent on Cleveland. And that's the thing, is that you've got a ton of talent there. So to think about them just getting ripped up by 8, I mean, they're saying that the difference between Houston and Kansas City is basically the difference between Cleveland and Baltimore. Divisional game. I don't know about all that. I think given this number, I would probably take Cleveland. It's not going to be one of my 5 games, but I would take Cleveland +8. Jets, Buffalo. Jets the game opened up 40. Yuck, sits at 39.5, and Buffalo is -6.5. A lot of people like Buffalo this year. Very talented roster. Jets, total disarray per usual. I don't think that I could take New York here, so I'd probably take Buffalo -6.5, but not a huge fan of this game. Next up, we've got Las Vegas and Carolina. Vegas -3, 46.5. I am going to take the Raiders. We'll take Vegas -3 here, and the whole deal. Now, it opened up at a pick. The whole deal here is that Carolina has so much new. So much new. They got Matt Rule. They've got Teddy Bridgewater. A ton happening with no prep time whatsoever. I think it's a big deal. So I'm fading teams like that early on, just almost like blindly fading them. Vegas, I think, took a step forward last year with Derek Carr. Derek Carr had the best year of his career. So I think Vegas might have a little bit more of or might suffer a little bit less from COVID and the slow prep time and all that stuff. So Vegas -3 could be one of the plays. Next up, Seattle, Atlanta. Seattle traveling to Atlanta. First game of the year, so it doesn't matter as much. They'll be there early, so the time and all that doesn't really affect it. Seattle is -2, it looks like. This is an interesting game because Atlanta last year, defense was an issue. But once they made a change from Dan Quinn calling plays to Raheem Morris, I think his name is, then the defense picked up a little bit. This could definitely be a shootout. I mean, like when you look at Houston KC, 56.5, and then you look at this, it's 48.5 inside. It's like this game seems like it should be higher. If you look at the home away, this is hard to do this year because of the fans, but this is saying that Seattle is like 5 points better than Atlanta, somewhere in there. And that seems about right. Atlanta has some issues, like at running back. Like Todd Gurley's their starting running back, I guess. So they have some issues there. I think if I had to, I'd probably take Seattle -2. I don't think this will be one of my top 5 plays, but I think if I had to, that's who I would take. Next up, Philadelphia and Washington. Philly is -6 on the road. So this is a big discrepancy, over under 45.5. Seems like a big number for the Dwayne Haskins team. Philly's an interesting team because Philly has a lot of talent, and they seemingly got better than last year, and Wentz hopefully is healthy. This is a lot of points, though. This means if it was at Philly, you're talking about like almost a double-digit spread. That's a lot. Ron Rivera being in Washington is good for Washington. You could argue that Washington not having a full house or not having their normal fans is better for Washington because they can't get booed. They can't deal with their fans jeering them, stuff like that. But it is Washington, and Washington was bad. No Adrian Peterson. Not that that really matters, but I mean, it is losing a cog. I guess here I would lay the number with Philly. I don't love it, but I think if I had to, I'd take Philly -6. Let's see. We'll go with. I'm gonna go with MGM for the lines. Like that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go with. So if I say a number, say I'm gonna take it or whatever, it's gonna be MGM. So we'll take Philly there. Next up, Chicago, Detroit. Open at a pick. Now is at -3 across the board. Open at 44.5 or 44, and that is now 44.5 most places. I think here I would take Detroit. Detroit -3. Obviously, I hate losing 3 points of value here going from a pick to 3. I just think Chicago's bad. I think Trubisky's just really, really bad. Detroit is an underrated team, and Stafford healthy. They shored up their secondary. They should be better across the board. This means they're pretty much even teams. I don't think they are. I think Detroit is markedly better than Chicago. So give me Detroit. This will more than likely be one of my games that I bet. Next up, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. Indianapolis is -8 on the road in Jacksonville. Jacksonville over under 46. Opened at 46. Now looks like 45. Game opened at 7, moved to 8. I think Jacksonville's the worst team in the league. Obviously tanking, traded away all their good players. With that being said, imagining Phillip Rivers and them just going out there and beating them by double digits is so tough. And again, this is different. It's a different year. No preseason, no training camp, nothing. Now, granted, Jacksonville could be completely just hands up, say, well, what are you going to do? You know, we just got rid of Fournette. We got rid of all these players. Like, we're obviously tanking. So maybe there's a motivational issue here. Perhaps it's in Jacksonville. It's going to be hot. I just don't think that all adds up. I think in this situation, I would take the big number. I think I would take Jacksonville +8. Got to think the continuity, team getting used to each other, the idea that Indy could be tired already from not playing and it being hot in Jacksonville, all that stuff might just add up to closing the number. Minshew should keep throwing it around. I guess I'll take Jacksonville in this one. Green Bay, Minnesota, at Minnesota. Open at 3, now moved to Minnesota -2.5. Over under 46.5 opener, now sits at 45.5. A tough game for me because I know how good Kirk Cousins and Zimmer are, and especially in the noon time slot, especially at home. There should be no fans in the stadium. Green Bay is in a bit of disarray. Aaron Rodgers is probably pretty pissed off that Jordan Love got drafted. So this says that they're relatively even teams. I think at 2.5, I would take Minnesota, but it's strictly blindly following Zimmer and Kirk Cousins. So give me Minnesota -2.5. I might actually, at that number, I might actually make this one of my 5. Next up, Chargers, Cincinnati. At Cincinnati, Chargers -3. Over under, open at 46.5, moved all the way down to 43. I don't hate the idea of the under here. It seems like a pretty low game. It's impossible for me to back Cincinnati. It's hard for me to say, yeah, the Chargers are this much better than Cincy, but I think I probably have to here. I think I'd probably have to lay the 3. I would not be happy about it, but I'll say Chargers -3 here. There's too many unknowns with Cincy. They're a bad team. Yeah, they're at home. How much does that really matter? So I'll say the Chargers. At least they have players who have played in the NFL, you know? Next up, Arizona, San Francisco. Zona at Frisco. Opened up 45.5, moved to 47.5, 48, somewhere in there. And it looks like -7 across the board. Basically opened at -7.5. Frisco -7. I like Arizona here. I like Arizona here. +7. I like what they're doing. I like Kyler Murray. I like them throwing the football around. Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins, they have weapons. Second year for Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. I think Frisco is really good, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Frisco just kind of ran the ball, played defense, did their normal Frisco things, took it kind of easy. I think Frisco wins this game, but this has like 24-20 written all over it. I don't know about a 7 to 10 point blowout. So I think Arizona keeps it close. First game of the year. They open it up a little bit. They have a pretty dynamic offense. So if they score, which I think they should, you're talking about Frisco having to score a lot to cover the 7. So I'll take Zona -7 or +7. Next up, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. In the Dome, no fans. Open up 50.5, moved to 49. Opened up -4.5, moved down to -3.5. Now here's my problem with this game. The Saints are one of the biggest home field advantage teams in the NFL. True? True. There are no fans. Home field is gone. So if you take away home field, which is normally 2.5 to 3 points, you're telling me that New Orleans on a relatively neutral ground. Like, obviously, it's not neutral. It's in New Orleans, but there's no fans. So the only difference is the travel. First game of the year, travel is totally irrelevant because Tampa Bay isn't traveling week to week. They should be there early. Are the Saints better than Tampa? I think so. Are they 3.5 points better? I don't know about that. The teams are pretty similar to me. I think given the home field situation, take away the dome, I think this is a lot closer. 3.5, I think you have to play Tampa Bay here. It's a beautiful number. There are issues with Tampa Bay with continuity and no preseason, no training camp. Tom Brady, Leonard Fournette, how impactful will he be? He's only been there for a week. Will he even play? Will he even know the playbooks? How many plays will he know? So I think that is certainly a devil's advocate, but you're talking about the Saints being 3.5 points better in an empty stadium. I don't know about that. The teams seem much closer to me. So I'm going to take Tampa Bay plus 3.5 here, and that probably will be one of my 5. Dallas Rams, Sunday Night Football at LA. Dallas -3. Big number here. Open up 2.5, 50.5 over under. Dallas is definitely the more talented of the two teams. That's a lot, though. New head coach, Mike McCarthy. Now, being Mike McCarthy, being an older coach who's been around the league, is good for Dallas. It gives them some continuity. It gives them a guy who's organized. And then LA, we all know the problems they have. Gurley obviously is gone. What can Goff do? It's a big number. A big number. I think I'd go Dallas here at 3. I wish it was 2.5, but I already said I'll use MGM. Dallas is one of my 5, but I trust Dallas more than LA. I don't know what LA has to beat Dallas, and Dallas is so loaded. Question mark with Dak, though. Getting franchised, you got to think he's probably pretty upset. So I'll say Dallas -3. Pittsburgh and the Giants. And New York. Opened up -3 for Pittsburgh. It's moved all the way to 5.5, 6 in most places. Over-under open 48, moved to 47.5. It is a huge number. It is a big one. I mean, Pittsburgh's got, I don't know. I hate to be backing Daniel Jones to start the year, but I think you got to this number. I don't think Pittsburgh should be giving up 6 points to really anybody on the road. If Danny Dimes has any kind of progress, I mean, you got to think Saquon Barkley can maybe at least a player like that could keep it relatively close. New York is obviously healthy, whereas they weren't healthy at all last year. I think I'd take New York here. What I got +5.5, so I'll take New York +5.5. Tennessee, Denver, final game of the week. In Denver, Tennessee opened up +1.5, and they've moved all the way to -2.5. Over under 42.5. I'm going to be contrarian here a little bit. I'm going to take Denver. So I'm going to take Denver 2.5. This probably will move to 3. So I'd probably wait if I was taking this, but since for right now, I'll take it at 2.5. Here's my thing with this. What is Tennessee going to try and do? Run Derrick Henry, right? Okay. Well, if they're going to try and run Derrick Henry, they're in Mile High Stadium, and they have had no training camp, no preseason. So you got to think that Derrick Henry is going to be exhausted. So he's not going to be running like the Derrick Henry we saw in the playoffs. So if you take away that, then what do you have, right? Now, Von Miller did just go down with a season-ending injury, so that's really bad for Denver. That's probably why those numbers will shoot up to 3. But given the circumstances, given the Mile High, given haven't had any preseason, any training camp, you got to think this is the worst shape that Tennessee will be in all year long. Giving up 2.5 to 3 points on the road, I think it's way too much in this situation. I'm blindly basically betting on Mile High and the idea that Derrick Henry will have a controlled workload versus just running all over for 200-plus yards. So I'm going to say Denver. So my 5 picks, my official first week 5 picks, Denver is one of them. So we're going to take it at 2.5 here. So Denver, Tampa Bay, -3 or +3.5. We're going to go Detroit -3. We're going to go Miami +6.5. And one more. And let's go. I need one more here. I'm tempted to say Arizona. Kind of like what they have going on. I don't want a team that's like, I don't want a team that's moved a lot. Like, a lot of these lines are just so bad in value. Like this Vegas pick. Like I could have gotten a pick, and I'd take him at -3. It just kills me. Granted, I did it with Detroit, but still. Could do Minnesota. So what? So I've got Denver, Tampa Bay, Denver, Tampa Bay, Miami, Detroit. So Denver, Tampa Bay, Miami, and Detroit. My 5th pick will be. Then we're going to go Arizona. So Arizona will be my 5th pick. Arizona +7. So that is my official week 1 picking every games. And then my official 5. So the official 5 there, we'll be tracking both numbers. See how I do this year. We're doing this every Thursday. We'll do this where we go through this the sheet. We'll pick the teams. So there you go. So that's my official week 1 NFL spread. Let's win some money this year, huh?